co-trained with her on two separate occasions. Once in North Carolina, we did a training together, and we did one in Atlanta probably about 3 or 4 months before the pandemic hit. And when I'm talking about, like, when we're talking about this pure, like a sales trainer, like Sharon Larry is a sales trainer. She always gives you things like those little nuggets that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. And I said, you've got your typical sales that people will tell you all the cliche things to do. And then there's some salespeople who they got these little nuggets, these little things that you can do that'll up your sales, right? They got like these little slick lines and these little slick emails that they can put together that will increase your sales. It's not magic, it's just putting together the right information. So Sharon Larry talked about fanatical prospecting on our call Monday, our CDL call, and talked about how that helps you put together emails. I've had Sharon Larry send me some emails that I use for my benefits accounts because I had heard that she put together great emails. And she does. She puts together great emails. She's great in employee benefits, also a team builder. So let me tell you the story on when I really got a chance to really meet Sharon Larry. So I knew who she was because I'm in TMB, she's in TMB. So of course, she's a Millionaire Club member. They're 6-figure ring earners, her and her husband. I had been at different events that they had done. But you know how you hear about somebody being good at something, and then when you actually see them do it, it's a whole other story. So we were coming from a conference, not coming from, but leaving the conference for that evening and going back to the hotel. And I happened to be in an Uber with Sharon Larry. And at that time, Sharon didn't really know who I was, but I was kind of hitching a ride with them, TMB style. And on the way back to that hotel, she pitched the Uber driver and recruited the Uber driver on the way back to the hotel. And when I tell you, it was like the most amazing thing because, you know, whenever you go anywhere, LegalShield guys, you sit in a restaurant, somebody pitches the waiter. You go to the airport, somebody's always pitching. That's just how we are on LegalShield. So there's not going to be some innocent bystander standing there that doesn't get pitched to. But this was different. Like, this was totally different. Like, it was like it was so smooth that when she started talking to him, and at the end of that ride, he was like recruited. And I was like, okay, what just happened? Like what just happened? And it was just like, it was like the most amazing thing. So that was my first experience of watching her do like her sales, recruiting, LegalShield thing, like seeing it in person. Because I knew she was a group trainer. I knew they had success. They already had a 6-figure ring. They were already Millionaire Club members, her and her husband. I knew that they were running Georgia and running Tennessee and doing all these things. But to be sitting in the vehicle and hear her pitch that, you know, it is hard to pitch in front of people that know the pitch. When you're talking to somebody that don't know, you can say anything because they don't know. But when you're pitching in front of other people who have rings and you're pitching in front of them, and it's like, let me show y'all how to do this. Right. So it was just like the most amazing pitch. And then every time I've trained with Sharon Larry, it's just always been like an amazing training because she's so energetic and she's so passionate about what she does. So I really wanted to bring the best of this call. So y'all know who we've had. We started with Alistair Edwards. Then we went to Kelly Rowe, then to Sandy English. Now we got Sharon Larry, and then the last speaker we got is Ulysses Brown. Like, I wanted to bring really like the best of you guys could really hear people talk to you guys about going for no. And when she told me this title, like this title, I was like, I gotta really put something together for this because I don't even know what she's gonna train on. But by the title, Getting to Your Promised Land, it's gotta be something that I would totally like 100% back the idea of what she's doing, because I love this kind of stuff when you take a training and you make it your own little small training and give these analogies and say, okay, this is how you make it happen. So without further ado, guys, look, $150,000 ring. Is it $150,000? Is it $200,000? What you guys at right now?
It's $150.
$150,000 ring earners, guys, in LegalShield, Millionaire Club members at LegalShield, like top leaders on both ends of the business, guys, networking and B2B, guys. I introduce you guys to Mrs. Sharon Larry. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Rob. I am so excited about where you're going. You know, you are a visionary and you are a trendsetter. And you know, when I say you're a visionary, 200,000 ring earner, yes, that's it. That's the vision. You got it. Right? But also, too, you're always ahead of the game. And it's something because, you know, tonight I really want to talk about being brave, right? And you epitomize what that looks like. You know, knowing that you have to go in a direction that suits you. And where you get to the point where you realize I cannot make everybody happy. And if I can't make everybody happy, then let me look at what I need and what I want, right? And, you know, what I've seen you do is carve your way, in a lot of cases through stone, through metal, and I'm just talking about opposition, but still saying, this is my journey, nobody else, right? And when you understand that, that's when you have major breakthroughs, right? When you understand that. And my philosophy is, when it's time for me to take my last breath, and some of you guys have heard me talk about this, right? When it's time for me to take my last breath, nobody's going to step in and say, hey, sis, you know, hey, we hung out all these years. You know, we've done this, we've done that. You know how much I love you. Nobody's going to say, I got this for you. When it's time to take that, nobody's going to be able to do that. And when I understood that, this is what I understood. If you can't die for me, you cannot live for me, right? So tonight, let's talk about what being brave means, especially when it comes to this business, and what that promised land is as you're being courageous. And when you think about being brave, right, it doesn't mean that you're fearless. I'm not talking about being fearless, because I can tell you right now, there's not anybody who's on this call, who's in LegalShield, who's in business, who's living, who's not experienced some fear, and probably still experiencing fear in certain things for certain areas of their lives, right? That's just kind of part of our biological makeup. We were designed that way. It's almost a protective mode, right? But we also have the wherewithal to move past it, right? If you don't hear me say anything else tonight, hear me say this. So far, everybody on this call, I can say this unequivocally, everybody on this call has experienced fear. And the one thing that's true about all of us, because we're still here, it didn't kill any of us, right? Think about the most excruciating thing that you've dealt with in your life, and you're still here to talk about it. That's what we have to do for our business, right? And for the women on the call, you know, when you talk about being courageous, and for the men, you know, we carry children and we actually birth children, but we as parents, we raise children. I'm telling you, that's some courage. That's some serious courage to bring children in this world, right? We don't know who they're going to be when they get here. We don't have a clue. And we will do everything we can to help direct and guide that, you know, but we don't have a clue. But we still do it. We still do it. And, you know, as we continue to think about how to have courage in this business, as I'm moving toward my promised land, right? Think about what it is that you really want. And I'm not talking about, you know, Rob talked about cliches. I'm not talking about the BS cliches, right? I ain't talking about that, because we all can stand and we can all say, well, my why is, you know, I want to, you know, do by whatever, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, for me, when I understood that, yes, of course I want to give my children the best life possible. Of course I want a nice house, and of course I want nice car, and I want to travel, and all of the things that we talk about. But you know what I want more than anything else? I want to finish the journey. I don't want to be a quitter, right? I don't want to say I embarked on something else that I didn't complete. I want to say that I said I was going to do it, and look, here's the evidence that I did it, right? That's why most of us come here. You know, everything that we talk about in terms of the houses, the cars, and all of those kind of things, Those things are a result of us being courageous, being brave, right? Stepping outside of what we typically do. Let me share with you guys a couple of people that I've had an opportunity to see firsthand what being brave looks like. One is a young lady. Her name is Mary Seats. She's here in Atlanta, and they call her Miss Skillets. So, you know, when I heard her story, I thought to myself, now, that's somebody who's got courage, right? And I'm going to tell you a little bit about her story and then tell you how she got to her promised land. You know, and she was somebody who was born poor. You know, the fact that she talks about the fact that she never got gifts for Christmas. Her mother never purchased gifts for them for Christmas, she and her sister. And she started to make a little money, and she would buy little things and wrap it up and put it under the table just so she would have something for Christmas. Right. From there, she started to do a little rap thing at school, and she started to get more and more attention. But in the process, she was dealing with a lot of emotional turmoil. Her sister committed suicide. She found her 14 days later after the suicide. You can imagine what that looked like, right? 14 days after that she had passed. And then she started rapping. She actually went out on tour with people like Lil Wayne. She was out on tour with a couple of other rappers that if I call the name, you guys would know. Oh, Gucci Mane. She was out on tour with Gucci Mane as well. Okay, now for those of you who don't know who Gucci Mane is, some of you guys may not know, but I think most of us know, right? Is there anybody already who doesn't know? Okay, I'm just kidding. But so she went out on tour. She eventually created a marketing firm, and she took this marketing firm to $1 million marketing firm. She eventually had somebody who decided they want to purchase it. Well, she had an attorney, and the attorney was really busy at the time. And she decided to go ahead and ink this deal by herself. And they promised her that she would be the CEO of her brand, that she would have a $4,000 apartment in New York City, in Manhattan. They told her that she would earn $250,000 a year, that she would still own 60% of her brand. And and she would be on the board of directors. But all of this was fluff. None of it was real. Eventually, they took her products and they were selling her products. They eventually fired her from her own company. And when they fired her, they did it in one day. It's like, we're taking your keys to your apartment. They told her she was going out of town. They told her to pack because they were going to be sending her out the country. And she brought her luggage to the office thinking she was going out of the country to promote the products, right? And then what they did is they fired her. They said, you don't have to go back to the apartment. We've already changed the locks. You don't have to go to your office. We've already packed up your stuff. We will escort you out of the business, out of the door. So now she's lost her business, right? And she ended up giving them $30,000 to pay for a warehouse in China that they were supposedly purchasing for her product that they already owned. Now, she had $300 in her pocket. With $300 and the courage, right? She created her brand all over again. With $300, with courage, she created her brand all over again. And she eventually bought her name back. It cost her $60,000 to buy her name back from this company, right? How many of you guys would just think about how many times you get knocked down? How many times are you willing to get up to get to your promised land? If you go look at her now, her net worth, if you go look at her on Instagram, if you just Google her name, you can't even imagine that all of this was happening around 2015. She was 25 years old. She's still a very young woman, a multimillionaire, but she's helping a lot of other people in the process. Let me tell you about courage, about bravery. There's a young man. He's probably 50. He's 50 now. No, he's about 52 now. I watched this personally because this was my brother. My brother was diagnosed with HIV, and he eventually had full-blown AIDS, and he just collapsed, and he actually had a couple of mini strokes, and it was a battle. I mean, I cannot even tell you guys. He basically looked like he weighed about 10 pounds, right? But here's what he did. Every day when you talk to him, he was like, I'm not done yet. You know, when the doctor was saying he was done, when all his friends were coming in saying it's over, right? He was saying, I'm not done yet. I haven't gotten to my promised land yet. I'm not done yet. He eventually came back. It took about 6 months of going in and out of the hospital. We eventually got him home, and they sent him home with a walker, and they sent him home with diapers, and they sent him home with all of this medication, right? And he was like, I'm not getting on that walker. And we were all trying to encourage him. He says, I'm not getting on that walker. What he did is he scooted, right? He scooted. You guys know that word, scoot, right? He scooted around the house. He dragged himself. He refused to get on that walker. And when I would be so mad at him, and I was like, why would you do what the doctor said? He said, because I'm not done yet. And at the time I was like, you just being, hard-headed. He just would say, but I'm not done yet. He said, everything that they sent me home with, their message to me was, you're done. He said, but I'm not done yet. He would pull himself up, right? He put himself up on the bed, and he would kind of walk around the bed, right? Just can barely pick up his feet. He's walking around the bed. Everybody's saying, get in the bed, lie down, stop. He's saying, but I'm not done yet, right? If you could see my brother now, you wouldn't have not known that he went through all of this. This is about 2 years of his life. And what he did is he raised his son by himself. He is now raising my niece. He's got a great job. The job that he really wanted, that was his promised land. That's what he wanted. He's doing that now, right? He was brave. He was courageous. Was he afraid? He was. There are many nights he cried. There are many nights that I held him and I was like, it's going to be okay. But every day he would say, but I'm not done yet. That's what it takes. So when you think about your business, what is it you truly want, right? Do you want to stand on the stage? Do you want to have 10, 15,000 people who are saying back to you in their applause, in their cheers, that you have arrived, that you are in your promised land? And why do you want to get there? You want to get there because it's proof positive to your team, to the naysayers, to all the people who said you couldn't do it, wouldn't do it, didn't know how to do it, right? Had too much education, didn't have enough education. It's proof positive. Let me tell you what happens to you. What happens to you is all of a sudden you realize the brilliance, right? When you get there, and it's more than one promised land. You hit one and you start to take the journey for the next one. Let me tell you how you can be courageous in LegalShield, because they've done so much of the work for you. A lot of the heavy lifting they've already done. You know, when I talk about Mary Cease, she had to create everything from scratch by herself. She had to come up with the design. She had to come up with the formula. She had to come up with the marketing ideas. She had to do it all. But what did LegalShield do? In January Forbes advisor wrote, IDShield named the best identity theft protection services in the country, right? February 25th, Everything Benefits. LegalShield is pleased to welcome Everything Benefits. It said we are the most consistent and an exceptional benefit service, right? We were in the top 20 carriers listed. Investopedia, February 25th, has named LegalShield best overall online legal service, right? Then on March the 19th, IDShield review, is it worth the money? This was by a company called Film Daily. They said overall, absolutely. It says the services offered by IDShield make it worth every penny, right? I'm just saying that when you talk about being courageous, when you talk about being brave, when you know that you've got LegalShield, right? You got LegalShield on the left, you got IDShield on the right, right? You got your shield. Somebody else is actually formulating the product. Somebody else is working on enhancing the product. Somebody else is actually servicing the members. Somebody else is taking care of all of the payroll. Somebody else is taking care of all the employment issues. Somebody else is doing that. So we already stand on a platform that raises us up with LegalShield, right? So when you think about what's being said about LegalShield right now, you have to understand where you are. Part of being brave is having a vision. What is the vision that you see for LegalShield right now? Does anybody follow our CEO on LinkedIn? Anybody? I follow Jeff Bell on LinkedIn because Jeff Bell is a true visionary. And the things that he writes about in his through his LinkedIn profile. You know, we're still thinking about how we can, Performance Club qualify. He's thinking about how to take over the world, right? How LegalShield can take over the world. It's okay for us to be brave enough to see past where we are now. It's okay for us to have the courage to be able to step out and say, I want to earn $1 million a year. Some of us are even afraid to say that. Some of us still are saying, yeah, I just want to be an ED, right? Well, if that's all you want, you could just get a job. You just get a job. But if you're here because you know that you were born to do something extraordinary, this is the time for you to be brave enough to step into your place right now. What does that look like? What does being brave look like on a day-to-day basis? That means that you're actually engaged in income-producing activity every day, right? Every day. That means you're doing something either to grow your business, and that means bringing new members to the table. That means bringing new associates to the table. Those are the two things that we do. Right now, we may act like we're doing a lot of other things, but the two things that matter most are those two things. We're either selling a plan or we're bringing in a new business partner. Remember what I said, somebody else is handling their employment issues. Somebody else is formulating the product. Somebody else is delivering the product. Right? When we're talking to people, every time that you open your mouth, even if you're doing it and your whole body is shaking on the inside, that's when you know that you've got your brave on. That's when you know that you're headed to your promised land, right? Think about it. right? When I talk about money, a lot of times people feel some kind of way. But it's not about those little green pieces of paper. It is not about those metal coins. It is about what it allows you to do for yourself and other people. I want to believe that if you came here to LegalShield, that you didn't come on a whim. That if you came here to LegalShield, you came here because you were destined to do something extraordinary. That God, that the universe tapped you on your shoulders and said, you're the one. You're the one that's capable of being brave. You're the one that's capable of leading other people to the promised land. Now, the question you have to ask yourself right now is, am I the one? Can I actually get to the promised land? Can I help other people get to the promised land? You know, are you the one? You know, are you willing to get up a little earlier? Are you willing to work on weekends? Are you willing to stay up at night? Are you willing to take the phone calls? Are you willing to make the phone calls? Are you willing to talk to people? Are you willing to do something every day that will help bring income into your household, into your business? You know, people could lie to me, but you can't lie to yourself. Why are you here? You know, I bet all of us, from the moment we saw LegalShield, you know, we had one or two thoughts, right? We thought, oh my God, you know, I can earn a few bucks extra. That eventually became a bigger dream. If that was how you were initially saw LegalShield, I can earn a few bucks extra. But if you're still here, if you've been here more than a year, right, then that what you saw then has evolved. Because otherwise, you know, you would be like, hey, I'm not going to be on that call because all I need is $50 a month. All I need is to sell one plan a month, right? And then some of us, like me, I remember sitting there and my husband kind of, he kind of duped me into going to a presentation because he had already decided to do LegalShield. And I was like, I don't want no part of it, right? At the time I was in corporate sales and, you know, making, you know, over 100 grand there. And I was like, I don't see this. And then he told me if I would go with him, he would take me to dinner. Now, in my mind, I was like, this brother gonna pay tonight. We're going to the most expensive place I can find, right? I'm like, I'm gonna sit through this little presentation because I'm gonna eat well tonight, right? And was even thinking, hey, on the way, he needs to stop and get me some flowers. Pair of shoes wouldn't be too bad either, right? If I got to do all of this, right? So I get there and the gentleman is sharing the plan. I kind of get it. Okay, makes sense, right? It just kind of makes sense. And then he talked about the money. What I heard, and everything else became invisible to me when I heard residual income. At that point, it was like my heart was beating faster and faster. I found myself scooting closer to the end of the chair, right? I'm leaning in because I never heard of such a thing. Where did they buy that at? Because I had been working for the company I was with for 15 years. And nobody ever said of anything about continuing to pay me for all the business I was bringing to the table. What did you hear that night? What I heard was, you'll be able to work, bring the same skills, the same work ethic, the same passion, the same drive to this, as they will pay you again and again and again and again. Man, at that point, it was like everybody could have left the room. Everybody could have, just stopped. The world could have stopped because I saw my promised land. What did you see that night, that day, that moment? And it's the thing that fuels me. Let me tell you how getting to that promised land looked for me. So my mom was sick. My mom lived in Memphis, Tennessee, and I had to go back and forth for almost 2 years to be with my mom. And then my mom was in the hospital. It was 45 days. I was there every day. Every day. I'd never left the hospital except one day. I was on my way out and came back, but 45 days. Can you even imagine what it would have looked like if I had a job? Can you imagine what it would have looked like had we not had that residual income? Because we didn't miss a beat. 4 years ago, I had to have major surgery. Melvin was my caretaker. I couldn't do anything for myself. He had to do everything, clothe me, bathe me, everything. He wasn't really in the game. I definitely wasn't in the game. But because of my promised land, we didn't miss a beat for almost 4 months. Right? What was your promised land? Did you see the residual? Did you see yourself going and spreading the good word? Did you see yourself going into your community and making sure not another mother shed a tear because there was something that would make sure that her son came home? Did you see the fact that prior to knowing about LegalShield, we saw women being taken advantage of every day when they were taking their car in for repairs, right? When they were trying to negotiate deals. Did you see your promised land because you knew that there were people who were, as they were getting older and going into the older years, that they needed to have something in place so that they could leave a legacy for their children? My question is, what did you see? Why are you here? So what do you have to do? They're not asking you to give, you don't have to shave your head. You ain't got to give no blood, right? What do you have to do to get to your promised land? You don't have to cut off an arm. What do you have to do to get to your promised land? You've got to be brave enough to understand that there will be moments when it's not easy. You have to understand that people are going to act like people. You have to get to the point where even though you're afraid, that you go anyway. Being brave, being courageous is not the absence of fear. It's the going through. It's the dealing with whatever in order to get to your promised land. All of us know the story of Moses. We know about the 40 years. Now, LegalShield is preparing for another opportunity for major bonuses and incentives, right? Here's how you get to your promised land. You have to be courageous enough to ask everybody who is where, if they're in your promised land and you have an opportunity to talk to them, you need to ask questions. Here's what I see so many times, right? Now, I remember the night that Mr. Dunbar was in the car with us. And what I do remember specifically is that he was quiet the whole time. He was in observation mode the whole time. You know, I get sometimes I'm talking to people who say, Miss Larry, I want to get my 50K ring. And I'm like, oh man, that's wonderful. And then they go from there to, let me tell you all about my life. Let me tell you about my why. Let me tell you what I've done, da, 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 da. And I listen and I say, that's wonderful. And then I walk away. When I'm with the Millions, Mrs. Seth, Brian Carruthers, Melissa Wilder, this is what I'm doing. Tell me how, when, where, what. Tell me. Tell me more. I'm asking a zillion questions. No disrespect, but what can you tell Brian Carruthers? What? You know, I don't get it. Sometimes I'm like, if you're not listening, you should be asking questions. I'm just talking to you about trying to get to your promised land. And it takes courage. It takes courage to talk to someone, if you have an opportunity, to ask them, to say to them, I am trying to get to where you are. May I ask you a couple of questions? And you don't have to have a list of questions. All you have to do is be willing to ask, whatever the question is. Because if you ask the first one, the second one becomes easier. The third one becomes even easier. How to get to your promised land? Income producing activity. Positioning yourself so that when you're around people who have what you want, you're taking advantage of that opportunity. That's not a time for you to tell your history. There will be a time for you to talk about your history in your promised land. Right? How do you get to your promised land? We talk about the bravery, right? I know that our upline was in California. And so Melvin and I had nobody here in Atlanta. There were other TMV associates here, but it was just Melvin and I. So again, we were trying to figure it out. And so we call our upline and we said, we want to have an RPB. Right? PBR, we'll have an RPB. And we were trying to get somebody to help us. And they told us to go to this person who at the time had one of the largest organizations here and talk to her. And, we went and she looked at us like, okay, I don't have time to help you people, right? But we didn't stop there. We kept pushing and kept hounding and kept pushing. Eventually, there was a couple who was in Montgomery, Alabama. They drove 4 hours from Montgomery, Alabama. She was about 8 months pregnant, right? I will never forget this. I will always be endeared to them because they drove and we had 6 people at our RPB, our PBR, and those are our 6 children, right? But the next PBR we had 46 or 48 people there. And Mr. Self did that PBR, right? Because we kept asking, and we kept being kind of pushed into the corner. And then about 6 months after we were in the business, so we were at the briefing and they asked all the EDs to come up. So we stand up and we walk down the aisle to the front of the room, and we were told, no, not you people, not you guys, just the EDs. We were like, we are EDs, right? Everybody was blown away because we were the ones who were out here trying to figure it out by ourselves. But what we were not is, even though we were afraid, even though we had shaky moments, we were not going to be denied. My promised land was that residual income. I didn't want to hurt anybody to get there, but I think I might have because it was the thing that I had to accomplish. I could not, I can't not I cannot not win. I can't. I wasn't designed for that. Or even if I was designed for it, even with growing up in the projects, even with being, as tough as it was coming through that, somewhere somebody told me, or I heard, or I read that I could win, that I was the child of the Most High. And I believe that. I was naive enough to believe that. Who are you? Right? So, get it in your head that we're all scared. I don't care whether you're talking about Jeff Bell. I don't know if you're talking about the new associate just coming to the table. We all have moments of fear. You just have to decide what you want. Okay? I saw when Rob came on in the background, he had pain pushes you until the vision pulls you. Pain pushes you until the vision pulls you. That's by one of my favorite lecturers, or he's a minister. His name is Dr. Michael Beckwith. I love that. The pain will push you until the vision pulls you. And eventually, if you are focused, your vision will drive you. Right? I want you guys to imagine quitting LegalShield. I want you to imagine that all of the friends and family that you've talked to about LegalShield, and all the ones who didn't support you, I want you to imagine calling them up and saying, "Girl, I quit LegalShield. Man, I'm through with LegalShield." Right? Imagine that. Because if you do that, this is what you say. You say, I didn't believe. I didn't believe enough in me. I didn't believe enough in the product. I didn't believe. Hey, I was just lying. None of the stuff I told you, none of it was true. Okay? It's okay to be afraid. And the last thing I'm going to leave with you guys is, none of the people you're talking to, not one of them, understand how much you're loved by your family, your spouses, your children, your friends. They have no clue who you are. And if they have no clue who you are, why would you give any of your power over to them? Get your promised land. You will never be brave if you don't get hurt. You will never learn if you don't make mistakes. And you will never be successful if you don't encounter failure. It's part of the course. Here's a good thing. You've got people around you that every time you fall, who will be willing to help you get up again. Don't be scared. Right? Let's get to our promised land. We deserve it. Our families deserve it. And all those knuckleheads who told us we couldn't do it, they deserve to hear, I'm in my promised land. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Mr. Dunbar,
So awesome.
I'm turning it back over to you.
You are so awesome. And see, now I don't know what to say after that. I just want to hit the end button. Like, I'm just like, what do you say? What do you say after that? Oh my God, yo, that is so heartfelt, and it's so, and I love the purpose and the passion in it, because that's how I like for information to be delivered, because on the slide, and this is the 1, 2, 3s of sales, everybody keeps hearing that. And the thing is, until you touch that emotional bone, like people just don't understand how important all of this stuff is. They don't understand that they can actually have exactly what they want if they would actually just do this, you know what I mean? Just put the energy into moving forward in that space and not letting all of the distractions distract them. You talked about residual income being like that's part of my story. Like when I tell my story, part of my story is the guy chased me down for 6 months, and I finally went to a meeting and just shut the guy up, and I fell asleep at the meeting. I went to a meeting at a Watson Realty. A guy was, it was the most boring presentation I've ever seen in my life. I mean, the guy was like totally boring, right? And I fell asleep during the meeting. And what woke me up was residual income. He said residual income, and it woke me up. When he said it, I woke up. And I said I was going to get residual income. And then the first trainer I heard talk about residual income was Alistair Edwards. And 7 years into the business, I earned out. I've been with LegalShield 11 years. I earned out 7 years into the business. And the same thing, like you said, about dealing with being sick and all of those different things. Like same thing with me. When my daughter had the baby, her mother's in Florida too. Her mother's in Florida. I'm in Florida. She's in New York. Her mother had just advanced in her position in her company for the state of Florida, and she could not leave. She couldn't go up there with her when she was having a baby. Now my whole family's up here, but I went to New York for a month. I got up there 2 days before my daughter had the baby. Was up there with her for a month after having the baby, because her mom couldn't come up there until after, they gave her free time because she had just moved to another position. And it wasn't an issue because I was able to do LegalShield from there. And the LegalShield I couldn't do, I had residual income coming in. And for those that don't understand how important that is, guys, I tell people, I talk about Alistair Edwards, and I say, do you understand that a $300,000 income earner that's earned out is making more money than a $600,000 income earner?
Absolutely. We have 3 accounts and they're all earned out.
There you go. I mean, it's the difference between having a 100-unit building and so does your next door neighbor, but they have a mortgage on theirs and you don't. It's all cash flow. And some people just don't understand that. Like, you don't have many opportunities that'll do that. Like, this is so good. Like your whole training was so good, because even if a person wasn't in LegalShield, you see what I mean? It wouldn't matter. Like, it's like you have to understand where you're going, because until you got something, a vision out there strong enough, right, to help you get there, all of the crap is going to get in your way because you don't want it bad enough.
And that's sales 101. Sales 101 is, we are in sales. You can say all day long with sharing. You have to learn some sales skills. If you go down and look at my library, part of my library is sales books. A large part of my library is sales books, because I need to know the skills. I need to acquire the skills if I don't have them. I need to enhance my skills every day because everything is changing. Right now, when we went through the whole pandemic, you couldn't get people on the phone, not in solutions, not in B2B, right? We had to adjust. That means you have to be able to, you have to be sometimes to be able to turn, not necessarily on a dime, but But you got to be able to make that pivot. And how do you do that? That's because if you want to scale your business, you have to always be learning from people who've already done it. Right? You've got to learn from people. That's why I said it. I didn't want to go hard with you guys because a lot of times people do not, I can't hit people over the head with sales. But everything that I talked about was sales. The first thing is getting to the point where you don't give a pluck about what anybody else says. If you are still concerned about what people are saying about you, you will always be dragging behind everybody else because it's so heavy. It takes up too much space in your mind. Right now, you need every ounce of space so you can figure out, how am I going to do the next thing? How am I going to tap into the technology? How am I going to be able to make sure that my business is not the same business that I had when I started 10 years ago? You know, you should be doing some things differently now. If you've been in this business 10 years, there are some things that you should be doing. There are some things, yes, they're going to stay the same, but you should be doing some things differently now, right? That's why, using the Prospect app. If you're recruiting, you should master that Prospect app. You should know every intricate detail of that Prospect app, right? You should be able to teach your team how to use that Prospect app, because everything now is about technology. It's being able to touch people quickly, and it's being able to touch people in very short spurts, right? Most people don't want to read an email that's 3-4 paragraphs long. We want to be able to get the information quickly because we want to be able to move on to something else. And that's our prospects. That's why the Prospect app can be your best friend right now. And if you're on the solution side, it should be some type of CRM, right? There's a lot of technologies that, if you're on the B2B side, that you could be using, right? But let's just say you're not a technology person. Then it's grit and grind. That means that you should be outperforming everybody else when it comes to making phone calls. Because now it's going to take us 3 times as many phone calls as it did 2 years ago. Right? Grit and grind. Look, LegalShield is going to go to the promised land. They are, right? Did you guys hear some of the articles that I talked about? Let me tell you, can I share just a secret with you guys? Come in, because this is a secret.
I love it.
Come on in, right? Right? Those articles, a lot of those articles that were written because our CEO is involved with those companies in some shape, form, or fashion. Right? The man is positioning himself to influence the news. Right? When you're looking at some of these articles, if you'll look, some of them will say things like, "This is just between us," right? Some of the articles will say that the reporter, the person who wrote the article, there's a possibility that they got paid. Now, Jeff Bell he's on the board of Forbes. He's one of the on the advisory board of Forbes. Right? He also like News and Film Daily. That relationship goes back for a lot of years. I just want you guys to understand, and what he's doing to me is so freaking brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. He's going to turn this thing with or without us. Right? And that's why I said somebody else is doing the heavy lifting. We don't have to make sure these articles are available to us. All we have to do is make sure we're using the articles. Right? This helps us to be more courageous, more brave. We can say, Forbes said it. I didn't say it. Forbes said it. Who's going to argue that Forbes doesn't know what they're talking about? Somebody being brave is almost like, hey, Forbes said it. That's the way I feel about it. You know, it's like, Forbes said it. Are you smarter than Forbes? I mean, that's kind of my implication, right? Like, you smarter than Forbes? It's these kind of things that help us to be brave, to help us be more courageous. Use them all. I'm sorry, Mr. Dunbar.
No, look, so you said sales, right? I do sales every week. I tell them it's a 30-minute call. We do an hour every week. They still get back on like Don King. Like, the fight's not gonna let Mike Tyson not gonna do it to him again. He's not gonna knock him out in 2 minutes. This one gonna be 5. It's gonna be 5 rounds. Mike Tyson come out, knock him out again in 2 minutes. And he still takes the next fight.
One thing about being in sales, I don't care what. LegalShield could fall off the face of the earth today. I'm gonna make some money. You know why? Because I have acquired the skills of sales.
That's right.
Right. So you're in the midst of one of the most lucrative sales experience in LegalShield, because LegalShield teaches sales. LegalShield for real teaches sales. And if you're ever around some of the other network marketing companies, right? Some of them, right? But LegalShield teaches sales. That means that you should be there with a cup, like one of those big old cups, like, you know, like this, and just making sure that you're getting it all. That you don't miss not one single drop of it. And how do you do that? How do you do that? You ask questions. You know, when you talk about sales, right? What Mr. Dunbar saw me do was ask a lot of questions. I asked this guy, what did he do? When did he do it? How did he do it? Who did he do it to? And I kept asking questions until he said something that was enough for me to say, this is why you need to do LegalShield. Right? They talk about pain point. You can call it pain point, but what you're looking for is you're looking for a way to show them how we can help them get to their promised land. And that journey is LegalShield. That's it. Ask the questions. Ask the question. So my husband comes home. A lot of times he'll come home. He'll say, honey, I met so-and-so today. And I was like, really? I'm like, well, are they married? Where do they live? Where do they go to school? Do they have children? He was like, I didn't ask all that. And I'm like, you just ain't nosy enough.
I love it.
I want to know it all. And you get better at it the more you do it, right? And it doesn't feel like an inquiry. You know, you get better at it. The last thing, and I'm gonna stop talking. One of the things I see with LegalShield, and sometimes it breaks my heart. People do not want to be bad before they can get good. They move out of the game because they want to be good from the get-go. And nobody's good from the get-go. Mrs. Self wasn't good from the get-go, right? You know, don't be so hard on yourself. Understand that it is a process. But see yourself getting better. Visualize what you want to look like when you're at your best. You know, I'm thinking about a young lady right now who's on this call, who's on my team, and I've watched her. Now, you talk about courageous, brave. This is one brave young woman, right? Because the odds were stacked against her in so many ways, right? But she came to me and she said, Miss Larry, I really can see this. I want to do this. And I told her, I said, well, what I want you to do is talk to every woman you can. And she called every last one of them. And this is a large group of women. This is not like 2 or 3 women. This is a large, every last one of them. She has spent time with all of these women. And what I've seen in the process is her growth. It's just been, it's been amazing to watch. She was scared to death. But she did it. And now Miss Carol Bowens is one of the top, recruiters on our team. And for those of you who know Carol, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Her confidence level is in a year, a little over a year, her confidence level has gone through the roof. Is she through growing? No, but nor am I. Let's go do this. Let's go to the promised land, because what happens when we get there, we're going to defeat all the giants. We're going to take over. We're going to have the milk and honey, right? We're going to run the world. You know why? Because we can.
I love it. I love it. And not one person has left this Zoom. Not one person. Not one individual person has left. That's how inspiring this has been. The articles that you're talking about, is there a place that people can get those articles that you read off? All information?
I'll send them to you. I have them already. They're already in order. I'll send them to you.
All right, send them to me and I'll get them out. Guys, our email goes out about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning the next day after this. It goes out, through my system. So I will attach.
I'll send it to you tonight.
Gotcha. And I'll attach when they'll go out. So you guys get those articles that Ms. Sharon Larry is talking about. Thank you so much for just being Sharon Larry. Thank you. And just to confirm, yes, that's exactly what you did in that Uber. You asked a bunch of questions. You asked questions. That's what you did the entire time. And thank you for handling the this is not selling, it's sharing. Because that is so, and if you say that on this call, my apologies, because I don't know I'm talking to you. That is so weak. Because if you will not admit to what you're doing, you're not going to do it well. Right. You're selling, and selling creates wealthy families, legacy. And if you're scared to say you're in sales, you will not do it well.
You will not.
There's nothing wrong with being in sales.
Nothing. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of the fact, because I was a computer programmer, right? That was, I came out of school as a computer programmer. And I I eventually moved to sales. And when I started selling, guys, and some of you guys have heard my story. So I went to work for one of the largest broadcast companies, and I was working for Rock 103. So I was the only African-American, and our station catered to predominantly men. And so there was no real formal sales training. So I would go knock on the door and I would say, "You don't want to buy any advertising, do you?" Be like, "You don't want to buy advertising." So you have to imagine how bad I was. I came from a total different environment into an environment I knew nothing about. And I'm not bragging. I want to just tell you guys, you talk about being bad. I was bad. I went home and cried to my husband every day. I said, I made the biggest mistake of my life. And then I became the #1 salesperson in the country. So, sales.
I see that Lady of Justice Award behind you.
Yeah, that's #2. You know, I have 2, right?
There you go.
That's
y'all
what
see what's
I'm
on that
talking
flyer,
about.
right? Y'all see what I got on that flyer. Y'all Ladies of Justice
I
on
love
that flyer.
that flyer. I love that flyer. I was like, oh, I need to look. Next time would you put both of them on there, please?
Yes, I will. Not only that, if you got something coming up, you let me know. I'll put a flyer together for you for your event, and I'll make sure
That
I
was
got
a
both of them bad
great
boys on.
flyer. I'm like,
Absolutely.
this boy got all kinds of skills, right?
Well, that pandemic, boy, turned you to a different person, don't it?
It'll
You
make
like
you an
this.
innovator, huh?
Hey, you like this. You like this. Get rid of this or pick up a new skill. Get rid of this or pick up a new skill. Let me pick up some new skills.
A new skill.
That's right.
That's right.
I wasn't sending nothing back. I said, everything I'm paying for, I'm going to keep paying for it. That's right.
That's right. That's right.
No,
And look,
this is awesome.
and you know, we have to just try everything, right? Within reason. You know, you don't want to, if depending on what your economic situation is, but where it makes sense. And, you know, I have to admit that I've paid for some things that, whoa, you know, I was like, wow, that wasn't worth it. But I tell you what I did learn from it. I learned how to ask better questions before I make those kind of investments too.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Well, we got some comments going on all over this chat and all over this Zoom. I got people on YouTube. I like, this is like been like bananas. Like really, like, cause I love this. I love this. I love the dialogue, and I love that it's not like, hey, here's 1, here's 2, here's 3, here's 4. You see what I mean? It's like the stories, and we know it, you know, and you know, we're on a team of the master,
right,
the master of stories.
Right.
You know, we're on a team of the master of stories. Darnell Self is like, he'll tell a story for an hour, and then you go home at night and you're like, wait a minute, he just trained me on all of this stuff, and it's just these stories. So those stories are like, that is such a skill set. Like that is like that's like a different level of training. Like that people don't understand that. Like that's like, you got like, okay, I'm trying to train, and then you got like Toastmasters, and then you got like that level.
Right. That's right. That's right. It is.
Yeah.
And it is. It is. And even when we're like when I'm, you know, if I'm meeting with a decision maker, I'm doing the same thing, even with a decision maker. I'm telling stories, right? I'm telling stories of other companies and how LegalShield was a positive impact for that company. I'm telling stories. If I'm sitting down with someone who is looking at coming into the business, I'm telling stories. I'm finding something, a commonality with them and somebody else in LegalShield, and I'm telling the story. One of the things that, you know, we do every year is we get that profiles of success. Even though it's online, we get that profiles of success, and we have studied their profiles of success. Because you want all of these different stories. You know, I can tell you the Amelia story. I can tell you Darnell Self story. I can tell you Brian Carruthers story. But it's so many, April and Rob's. I can tell you their story. I can tell you Robert Dunbar's story, right? That's because all of that information is available to you. Just take it into the place that you have to go anytime, anyway, you got to be there. Take it, and you know that place we all have to go. Put it in there, and when you are there.
Instead of that GQ magazine, right? Instead of that Better Home and Garden. Success. Right? Oh my goodness.
Because when you can tell those stories, oh my God, it makes such an impact. It makes such a difference. People can't forget the stories. They can forget about you giving them all the stats on LegalShield. They can forget about, all of the things that you tell them about the product. And most people can't remember. If we start to go through the product, right? The phone call, nobody would buy this. Right? It's when we tell them stories and they can see themselves in that story. That's how we sell this product. All right, I gotta open enrollment early in the morning.
I tell you, I tell you, like I said, people, they stay, guys. And, I always tell y'all thanks at the end. I know it's 10 o'clock at night. It's 10:18. I know y'all got stuff to do in the morning. But it's one of those things that if I stayed up throughout the night to get some information that could change my life, I would, because I can recover to sleep. So, just, my apologies ahead of time, guys, for us being on so long. Of course, you could have dropped off at any time, and y'all know I recorded, so you can see it anyway. But it's just these kind of things, you don't just stop them. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what's going to come out, because it's not a slideshow and I'm going to say this, then I'm going to stop. It's a conversation. It's a dialogue. And it's like, when you've been doing what you've been doing so long, it's just, you just talking.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not really planning things. You're kind of just saying stuff that's factual because you live these things, and you're going to say something that somebody tomorrow, their entire business is going to change because they heard you say just one thing. And it's like, I never heard that before. I never looked at it that way. That concept never went into my mind. And this is what I love about training and calls and this kind of stuff, is that especially with Zoom, you can change somebody's entire life online like this. A person gets tomorrow and be a different person.
I thought about the PowerPoint, and I have tons of sales PowerPoint because I have done more sales presentations, right? But for some reason, I just was not compelled to do that tonight. I really want to talk about the fact that we are positioned, right? And if we just stay the course, do your income producing activity, all of us will get to that promised land. And, it's nothing worse. And all of you have felt this when someone quits this business and we don't know why. And especially when we know that they need this business, right? But some of us have been here for 10, 15, 20 years. But we all know that if we hadn't gotten to the promised land, it's not because of LegalShield, it's not because of the attorneys, it's not because of whatever. It's because we weren't ready. Because there's nothing that can stop you when you're ready. Right, Mr. Dunbar? Nothing. When you're ready, nothing can stop you. Not a spouse, not children, not, LegalShield didn't pay me any money. And I can tell you, there are people who have been prime examples. Agar Thomas with $38,000 in the red, right? He had I think $30-something thousand. in chargebacks. He's still here. Now,
and taking care of his wife.
And taking care of his wife. Here's the thing: if anybody had to quit, if anybody had a reason to quit, it was him, right? And people would have said, "Well, you know, all those doggone chargeback. He had $30,000 chargeback. I would have quit too." But he was courageous. He was brave. He wanted to get to his promised land. And what he did is he worked diligently to pay that off. And now he's got that residual income at a time in his life when he needs it most, his promised land.
That's it. When it hits, it's time to go. And they're going to hear Ray Hickman tell that story about the 20 no's. It's in a book, but he's going to talk about it. It's in a book. He said, nobody told. He said, I heard the concept go for no. He said we was going to do 20 no's a day. He said, nobody told me that was stupid. Nobody stopped me. Nobody said that I couldn't do that. He said, we did it. And he said, it took us 3 or 4 hours a day. And we made 450 phone calls a day. And they ended up being the #1 income earners in that network marketing company.
Wow.
450 calls a day, 20 no's a day. He said, the only reason I did it is because I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to be doing it.
Right.
Nobody told me when I said that. When I said I'm gonna get 20 no's a day, nobody said, no, just do 10. They let me do it. And that's the best thing they could have ever done. They let me do it.
Yeah, I was reading, I was listening to Jessie Lee Ward. So if a lot of people met her for the first time during GoPro, right? She's mid-30s, maybe 30 something, and she's earning over $500,000 a month. Here's the thing: when I heard her story, her first network marketing company, she got terminated. At that time, she was making $200,000 a month when they terminated her. Now, if anybody had a reason to say network marketing is this, that's, that, and you're right, she got up and she called Eric Worre, and they found her another company. She went straight to the top again. Can you imagine? You're making $200,000 a month, and the company shuts you down. They didn't just shut her down; they kicked her out. That's the kind of brave I want to be. That's the promise. That's part of my promised land, to be able to turn around and look at my granddaughter and say, hey, Nana was brave. They came at me, but I kept on going. Right? I want my children to see me brave. I want my siblings who thought I lost my mind when I left that good job. I want them to see me be brave.
Sharon Larry, do you remember the call that Darnell Self did? And this was some years ago. He did a call, and he had said that he had sent a text message out to his ring earners and asked them how much money they were making a month, because that's when the rings were 100,000, 250,000, and they were texting him back, and he didn't realize how many ring earners were making 5 figures a month. Mm-hmm. Because they didn't have that $200,000 ring. You know, you don't really know what a person's making between 100 and 250,000. And I remember being on that call, and he was like all excited, like asking them, could he say their name and say how much money they said that they was making? That was 15 and 16 and 17,000 a month. And I felt like such a loser because I wasn't making that kind of money. And before he closed the call out, he said, and I said this yesterday on the training I did yesterday, that he mentioned, he said, I wish upon you $20,000 a month problems.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the very next month, I did $17,000 in LegalShield for the first time.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
And it was just like, I felt like Because it was like,
you wanted to be brave, didn't you? You wanted to be one of the courageous. You wanted to be one of those people to say, me too. I'm part of that. I live in that promised land. Me too.
And it was even worse because I was thinking he had to ask them. So they were so used to making that kind of money that they wasn't even saying anything. Right. It was almost like, hey, is it like how he had to ask them how much they was making? So I'm thinking like, so these guys not even talking about this. So they're so used to making this kind of money that wasn't even a conversation at this point.
And that's something when you think about it, because people are not in LegalShield necessarily. We're not saying, oh yeah, I'm making I'm making $400,000, $500,000 a month, but we are living in incomes that's still top 5% of this country. Most people are not making a 5-figure income every month.
And what a lot of people miss, and I was having this conversation with an associate the other day. You may not see a LegalShield associate on stage at some major whatever kind of event saying, I make $1 million a month. What you don't understand about that is that they're selling a product that if they stop tomorrow, they would go to 0 a month.
They would.
LegalShield people are making $1 million a year, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 a year. But if they stop, they'll still be making multiple 6 figures a year if they don't sell, because of the way our pay structure is set up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ours is more of a long-term pay structure. So because of that, I would rather be able to slow down and have that kind of money. If I had that option, which we do in LegalShield, to be, I've got $40,000, $50,000 coming in a month, and I don't really do much anymore. Versus I've got $100,000 coming in, and I got to work.
I can't ever stop.
Every single If I lose a day, I'm losing $12, $15, $13, $14, $15,000. Like I don't want my money to move with me like that.
And a lot of those too is based on distributors. They lose the distributors, they also lose that income. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference with LegalShield, right? We can build it both ways. You could build a really great residual income, and whether you have a team or not. Now it makes more sense to have a team for the leverage, but you could do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ask Rob Best and some of these other guys. You can do it. Mm-hmm. You can put it together.
Yeah. There are people who do nothing but B2B, earning 6 figures and more. That's all they do. They may have a few people on their team, but that's not their focus.
Kelly Rowe?
Yep.
Kelly Rowe?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Darius Frencher.
Yeah, Darius Frencher.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, Rachel too.
Rachel Law. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yes, there's a lot of them. I don't think that there's a couple recruits out of Texas, the Parkers, I.P.A and her husband. They don't recruit really, do they?
Mm-mm. They work a lot with brokers, but they're not necessarily recruiting individuals.
Yeah, network marketing side, they're not doing that yet.
No.
Yeah, no, that's good
not
stuff.
So much. Yeah. So this is it. This is the place that we can get all that we want. Right? Ask questions, guys. You gotta just ask questions. So, where you live, what you do, who you know, where you been, where you going. People will tell you everything you need to know if you ask questions. They will tell you everything you need to know, especially if you're talking about selling someone. You ask enough questions, you will hear exactly what you need to close them.
Just ask the question.
Ask questions. And, the questions get better the more you ask. It's like training yourself. The questions may not be, initially, they may not be questions that are necessarily geared toward the close, but they are questions that get you into the habit of asking. Just ask, and ask. I was talking to someone on the phone today, and then we were talking about a particular trip, and well, we already booked it. I don't really want to call the people back. And I was like, I'm calling, because if I don't ask, I don't know. I called. Not only did I got that, I got this, I got this, I got that, right? Just because I was willing to ask. You know, my husband says I'm the negotiator. No, I'm just always asking. Because what do I have to lose? What do I have to lose? The worst thing that can happen, they say, well, no, we can't do it. Right? It's like if they said, oh, Rob, you know, I'm going to feel like I just got shot. I'm going to fall down in the floor. I'm just going to die. No. So, I'll go on to something else. I ask somebody else.
That's right. That's right. Hang up and call back and get a different rep. You can do it's 1,000. I mean, it's like like this is so good. This is just so good because it goes so much along with go for no. Like how I will call anybody about anything. It just doesn't matter to me because at the end of the day, it's like who cares? Like whatever, you know what I mean? Like you're not a prospect until you're a prospect. Before that, you're a suspect. Who cares? Like
Miss Bailey just posted. My grandmother used to say that all the time, Miss Bailey. You know, she would tell me all the time, nothing beats a failure but a try. Nothing beats a failure but a try. I used to say, Lord, can this woman say anything else? But it was so true. I get it now. Nothing beats a failure but a try.
Wow. Nothing beats a failure but a try.
That's it.
Yeah, we breaking records tonight. Sharon, like it's 10:32. We started at 9 o'clock. There's still 26 people in here.
You know, if you wanted me to ask, if anybody had a couple of questions, I'd be more than, if you want to ask, if anybody's got any questions or anything, I can answer.
Anybody have any questions before we go? Unmute yourself and ladies first. Going once. Going twice. They like, y'all said it all. What we gonna ask? Y'all been talking for an hour and a half.
Like, we got to go. It's time to go.
Oh my goodness. Okay, good stuff. So no question.
I had a question. Breaker Jackson.
Hey, Ms. Jackson.
How are you? My question is, how do you, well, I think I got most of the answer, but how do you keep, I guess, replenishing your people, your referrals and your stuff? Like for me, I'm doing calls, but now I'm getting more into networking because I hadn't done the networking. And so I'm meeting all these people, but I'm just kind of meeting them. Like, I don't know how to open the conversation to really do.
Oh, that's a great question, Miss Jackson. That's it. So let's you and I talk, Miss Jackson. So, Miss Jackson, what state do you live in?
I'm in Grand Prairie, Texas, right near Dallas, Fort Worth.
So are you originally from Texas?
No, I'm originally from Illinois.
So what made you decide to go south?
Well, I got tired of the cold weather all my life, and it was warm and sunny here. So when I graduated college, I moved this way. But then I got married, been a military spouse for the last, 12 years or more. And we decided to retire here because my immediate family, my mom and brother lives here, and my husband's family is in Louisiana. So
your husband is retired military? And
yes,
so is he at home, or did he decide to do something else?
He is home now. He did junior ROTC in high school for 3 years after he retired. But when the pandemic hit, he decided to come home and do schooling and get his degree online.
Well, did he go into the military right out of high school?
He did, like a month after graduation.
Oh, wow. Did he do 20?
He did 23.
23. Wow, that's amazing. And so your husband was military. What branch?
He was Marine Corps.
Marine Corps. Thank you guys for your service, because when he served, you served too, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So were you home with children during a lot of the time that he was deployed?
Yes, I was. We have 3 boys.
3 boys. Right. So how old is your oldest?
15.
15. 3 boys. So is your
Yeah.
house still standing?
Barely. Barely.
Yeah, something about boys in the house, right?
Yes, ma'am. I was
And
just
your
telling you
youngest?
today, summer is broke every day.
Every day. How old is your youngest?
5. He just graduated kindergarten.
So were you working most of the time that they've been in school?
Doing LegalShield, yes, I was. In
So
fact,
you were doing.
I had declared, my husband retired in 2017, and in January 2018, I decided I was going to do LegalShield full time.
Mhm.
And so I didn't really work it full time like I would like to because of the boys' schedule, but I've been working it ever since.
So with the boys, are they in a lot of different sports and things like that?
Somewhat, not heavily yet. The oldest one is probably the most active.
Mhm.
The youngest one, they just started kind of doing sports here and there. But we were
Wow.
definitely here for the pandemic, all 5 of us, every day, even remote online schooling up until.
Wow. So now that things are opening up a little bit, do you find yourself getting out a little bit more?
I am. That's what has sparked me to really network more because I got involved with the chamber because I wanted to get connected in the community
Mhm.
and build relationships with people in my community and business owners. And so my first outing was last week at a what they call an after hours chamber event.
What about did you guys live in the other cities besides Illinois and Texas?
We were in California. I
Mhm.
was in Barstow, California, which was in the middle of the desert, 2.5 hours from LA and 2.5 hours from Vegas. So it wasn't a lot going on there. But right before he retired, I did connect with a couple there, and I was
Mhm.
about to start to do the briefing in the little town we were in. And then we left. So, because they were trying to find somebody to do a briefing in the town because they weren't far away and they needed somebody to run it because they didn't live there and I was going to do it. But then we moved, we retired.
So Ms. Jackson, it sounds like that while your husband was away, that you were really there raising the boys, that you were holding it down basically by yourself with 3 boys.
Yes.
Okay. So would you say that you're a pretty brave woman?
Definitely. Definitely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So as you are, you've gotten involved with the chamber, and now, how long have you been involved with the chamber?
I literally just joined maybe 3 weeks ago. So it
Mhm.
hasn't been long.
Are you feeling a little anxious about that? Because you're saying that.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Like because I actually once I joined, I found out there were people in there that I knew already.
Mhm.
That I didn't know that they did certain things that they were doing. So it's been kind of welcoming because
So
I
you're building some relationships now, right?
Mhm.
So as you're building the relationships and you're getting a chance to talk to people, what kind of things do you guys talk about?
For the most part, I do a lot of I'm doing one-on-one appointments, getting to know them and learning about their businesses and what they do.
Mhm.
And depending on the people, some of them are open to us talking about business to that degree, but a lot of times they're like, well, I just really want to get to know you and know who you are as a person. And so I'm doing a lot of those first time meeting greet type of things and not really getting into business per se yet.
Let me tell you, you have an advantage. And you have an advantage because you're a woman.
Okay.
And because we are good at building relationships. I'm not saying that our brothers are not, but we're born with a gene
Right.
that allows us to be able to connect with people. And the one thing I would say to you, Ms. Jackson, is keep connecting.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about the sales. It sounds like that it's not like you can't pay your bills, right?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
So you're positioned, and you have some advantages that other people don't have.
Okay.
You know, you don't have to feel anxious about selling.
Okay.
You know, what you do is you build those relationships.
Okay.
You keep asking questions. Keep asking them questions about their business. Find out, you know, why did they start their business? What is it they want? Where is their promised land? Where are they trying to take those businesses?
Okay.
You know, find out how they feel about their employees.
Okay.
Right? All of those things will give you enough information to be able to go back and say, well, you know, you were talking about the fact that your employees are, you know, that you see how valuable they are to you. Now, that would be a prime time to talk about our employee benefit, right? If they're talking about the fact that their business is consuming all of their time, if their business is choking the life out of them, that's a time to introduce LegalShield as a business, right? If they are talking about their children, right? You just got to keep asking questions. If they're talking about the fact that they have children, they have a family, now we have an opening to talk about, you know, getting the wheels updated.
Okay.
You can't know any of these things without that relationship.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Be anxious for nothing, because the universe has set you up well.
Thank you for that. And that's one of my my memory switches. As you say that. Ah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Take your time. There are some people who can't, but you can.
Okay. Okay. And I also I messaged you on Facebook.
I know, I saw it. I saw the Facebook message.
So I definitely want to connect again if we can.
I'll respond to it probably on Friday. It'll be my first free day.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Jackson.
So
Miss
much.
Tall, I see your hand.
Yes, but Robert had told someone else she could go next.
Oh,
yeah, we're
okay.
gonna get Carol. Get your associate first. She had her hand up, Carol, and then then you can give her.
Carol.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good.
I get something new.
Back. I'm gonna call you back before I go to bed. Okay.
Okay. I always get something new from you all the time. So I like when you said the pain push you until the vision pulls.
Yeah, that's from
that.
The gentleman that came from. He is he is a spiritual teacher, and I listen to him going to sleep at night. He is one of the most brilliant thinkers. Yeah, Michael Beckwith.
And then I enjoyed when you brought that up about Jeff Bell is the Vazon force. I didn't know that, so I'm learning something new. And just like
check him out, you guys. If you're not following Jeff Bell, like through this whole thing with the gentleman George that was shot. I mean, the things that he was writing, he was so profound. And even so now, just the things that he talks about, right? So I would say check him out. Go back to his LinkedIn and just go through some of the things that he's posted.
Okay. And then, like you were saying, get out there and be encouraged. Like today, I handed a lady at the Walmart a flyer, and I asked her, she was frightened. And I said, how many kids you got? And she said, I got this be the fourth one. And I asked her, I said, if something happened to you, who would get your kids? And she thought about it. And she said, I will be giving you a call. And I know where she work at, so I know where to go at. But so if she don't call me, I'm
you know where to find
her. Yeah, I know where to find her.
Well, the one thing about you, Carol, you don't mind asking questions. As to what, you don't mind asking questions. And that's why you're having the success you're having.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all. I'll just compliment you on what you did, the training. It was awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think you like me a little bit.
Okay.
Ms. Tall, could I answer your question now?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, building relationships, good ones, they last a long time. And you have the questioning down better than Perry Mason on average. I was just wondering about how long does it take for you to actually get all the information you need?
It just depends. Now, if Miss Jackson doesn't, what I was looking for is I was trying to figure out her age. Did you see how I was asking what question I was asking to get there?
Yes.
Right. So I was trying to get an idea of her age without asking. You can't really ask a woman, well, how old are you? Right. But, she told me her husband went into the military right out of high school. He served 23 years. So that kind of gave me an idea. And the age of her children can kind of give me an idea. Why do I need that? Because I'm going to talk to a 40-year-old different than I'm going to talk to a 20-year-old.
Okay.
Okay. Now, it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're talking, there are some relationships we can build instantly, right? Think about being at the restaurant, sitting down, and you want to talk to your server. Yeah, there are quick questions. Here's what I will do. If I meet somebody and I have to get a real, I don't have but a minute, I would ask, so Ms. Tall, what do you do? So tell me what you did either now or before LegalShield.
I'm a secretary.
You're a
Former
secretary.
military. I'm currently a secretary.
Okay, let's say you work for ABC company. So that's just, you say, well, I'm going to say, Ms. Tall, where do you work? You say, I work for ABC company. So Ms. Tall, where do you work?
I work for ABC company.
Oh my God, ABC company. I think I heard about them. I heard that they pay their people well. I heard that the benefits are incredible. So you sound like you're pretty blessed to be working for ABC company.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
Okay. Most people won't say that, Ms. Tall. This is what most people will say. They will say, no, it's not all that. Now, if I said to people, if I, met you and I said, Ms. Tall, what do you do? And you said, I work for ABC company. And I said, man, I heard that that's a rat hole. Immediately you would start to defend it. But when I start to talk about the fact that all I've heard these wonderful things, most people will say, the majority of people will say, no, I don't make all that money. No, they don't, it's not all of that. It immediately opens the door.
Okay.
Right? So if you want to find out something quickly, go straight to talking about what they do. And then once you get them to what they do, you was like, well, I heard that company pays extremely well. And for the majority of people, that's not the case. And then they're going to say things like, well, if they're paying well, they don't pay me well. And for me, that's a key. And from there, I can go to, well, if you could earn more money, would there be something that you would make a move right now? If you could earn more money, is that something that would help you make a move right now? Most people say yes. Now, they're thinking about another job, but at least I know that they're open, that they want more money.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
now I'm going to say, I may be able to help you.
Okay.
And I'm asking for the phone number.
Now, what about when they really don't want to give it to you?
Then I'll say something like, okay, if you can't give me a phone number, then there's no way I can help you. And, and I'll say things like, I understand, in this day and time, but at some point when we're ready to do something different, we have to think about the risk and the reward. The reward here is that you have an opportunity, a good possibility that you could find the kind of thing you want or the kind of income you want. The risk here is that I call you and try to sell you a vacuum cleaner.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. And you know, we learn how to push a little bit because yeah, people are hesitant, especially like you're saying, you're building those really quick relationships and you're trying to get information, you're trying to get a phone number, you know. And it's okay to say, well, I can't help you. If there's no way for me to get in touch with you, there is no way for me to help you.
Put my own